break it down, but also just show some natural progressions. So I'm going to get out of the way so I don't get hit. I'll let Aaron take it away.
Alright, so kind of for the first video you saw kind of those first two patterns that you go through, and the next things I'm going to show you are all breakdowns of those patterns. So just a real fast review. Kind of the first one we showed you was this circular pattern here. Okay, and then the second one was in the opposite direction. Everything I'm going to show you right now, at least initially, is going to be off of those two patterns. Okay, so we're going to kind of go into doubles. So what you can start with is that you can just start with a double of one of those patterns. So we can just come around like this, come back, same cast, swing them around. You're coming through, and then coming across. So when you come down here, you can worry about which one crosses through. Either one, doesn't matter. I try to alternate as much as I can because we tend to be more dominant towards our dominant hand, so we want to try and make sure we establish symmetry. This is also where you can find out, okay, am I asymmetrical? I know this shoulder rolls back way better than this one does. So I know that when I'm going through the pattern, I have to really make sure I focus on both shoulders doing the same thing. Come through. You can hear that hitting behind me, and what that is that if you're too close when you're coming through here, you're going to connect. So as you're coming up for a double pattern, you got to open up more and extend out. Same thing if you go the opposite pattern. Instead of going out, come across and kind of go through that same double pattern. Okay. Now if we make them alternate, then we can go from here. We cast both. So now this is an opposite of the 1 and 2 pattern. Okay? So this one's doing the first pattern, this one's doing the second pattern, they're going together. And I can switch directions really easily. Okay? And this is where your body's going to want to kind of rotate into it. So again, you got to stop the body from that rotation coming through. So then what you can also do is do alternating. So if I start from here, I'm doing that first pattern on both sides. Okay? Going through, then I can go in the opposite. Now I'm doing the second pattern, just alternating on both sides. Okay? So you can also start involving the legs into it. This is where you have to watch yourself, and you got to go slow first just to figure it out. Otherwise, you're going to end up crippling yourself because you're going to step into it and you're going to put a club into the side of your knee. I've done it once. And I will never do it again because it's pretty horrific, especially with the metal gloves. So what you can do is think about that same double pattern, and you can go from here, come up, you come down, and drop into a deep knee bend. You can swing through, and you can speed it up, but again, be cautious, because if you come down here and you come down, A, you might hit the floor. If you're not standing up soon enough, you're going to come into the side of your legs, and that's just going to be awful. And you obviously do any other pattern with that. So another thing you can do is you can step into it, okay? Or you can turn it into a full lunge. So you can come through that same pattern, come down as the clubs come through, that gives you clearance for the leg, and you can alternate sides. Okay? Obviously, the farther you step, the more you have to really time it well so that you're not doing a great big deep lunge and you're coming through here. You're down here and you're trying to come back up. You know you're going to have to stop yourself, and that kind of reduces the flow. But other things that are possible to do with the clubs are wrist patterns. So one of the wrist patterns, kind of grip it pretty tight, and you're going to circle around this way. Okay? Now one of the things is, a lot of this is out of my shoulder. So if it was just on my wrist, it would be up here. But instead, in order to be able to drop that club down, I need that external rotation on my shoulder to get clearance in that direction. You can also do wrist circles from letting it go. So I open my hand, let the club fall. As it swings back through, I get my thumb out of the way and wrap my thumb back around. And it just swings around kind of in a little tight figure 8 pattern on the shoulder. That pattern can also be done in front. Just watch your head, especially with the longer clubs, getting awfully close to me hitting myself in the head. There's other fancier stuff that you can do with kind of around the body and other figure 8 patterns. You can do them with both clubs And this is where I can really feel that asymmetry between my left and my right side just because of coordination. And let's see if I can make them alternate. Or you can get alternation around the body. This is when I first showed it to Chris. He was struggling initially with that to be able to get that full wrist circle. I expect at this point
I got this one. That's about it.
Got that one? So it took me some time to be able to get that sort of control. So always just practice light. And if you're like, I'm just lost, take it slow. Use the other hand to kind of help yourself through it. And there's a lot of stuff you can do with this. I mean, these are centuries and centuries, if not millennia, of history behind them, and people have figured out all sorts of crazy things that you can do with these. So just explore them, move slowly and move with purpose, and that'll make a lot of difference as far as being able to understand how this can benefit you as far as working on both mobility, proprioception, or even trunk stability, especially if you're using heavier clubs.
Perfect. And you see how fluid Aaron is, so you may be asking, it's like, I don't want to be a juggler. Well, he looks like he can juggle these things, and that is, I think, a progression of this kind of stuff.
There is a progression for that, yes.
But the other added benefit is just that you're able to now, like, you said proprioception, coordination. These are all parts of just general movement patterns. The more coordinated you are with your shoulders and your wrists, that's going to carry over to other athletic movements. So think of it as not just like a specific skill, but more of a movement pattern basis to carry over to other things that you may want to do. Really, and the more you can get coordinated with these different movements, you'll see your athletic performance just shoot right up. See you next time.